Creativity thrives in solitude. That's why I always preferred working in co-working spaces, quiet, open rooms with panoramic windows that overlooked the city, letting ideas flow without distractions. It was my ritual. Whenever I needed inspiration, I'd leave my home office, find a new spot on the other side of town, and immerse myself in work. That day started like any other. I arrived early, ordered black coffee from the small cafe in the lobby, and took the elevator up to the 15th floor. The space was perfect, minimalist furniture, glass walls, and a view stretching for miles. I settled into a corner seat, put on my noise-canceling headphones, and let myself disappear into my work. A few hours later, I stood up to stretch. My back cracked as I walked toward the massive windows, staring out at the city below. The streets were alive with people moving, talking, existing. My gaze drifted lazily over intersections, bus stops, and storefronts, taking in the mundane details of a world I had no part in at that moment. Then I saw her. My wife, Laura. She stepped out of a sleek black sedan, her red dress catching the afternoon light. At first, I felt nothing but mild surprise. She hadn't mentioned coming to this part of town. But then, as my brain caught up with my eyes, she wasn't alone. A man stepped out from the driver's side. Tall, well-dressed, confident. He moved around the car smoothly, placing his hand on the small of her back. They exchanged a look, something intimate. I didn't think. My instincts took over. I grabbed my phone and took a photo. The lens captured it all, the way she leaned into him, the way his fingers lingered on her waist, the way she smiled at him in a way that wasn't meant for me. My heart pounded in my ears. For a moment, I convinced myself there was an explanation. Maybe he was a client. Maybe it was nothing. But I knew better. The body language, the secrecy, the way she had told me she was busy all day with errands, it all clicked. Laura was cheating on me, and she had no idea I had just caught her. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I drove aimlessly, my thoughts looping in endless circles. When had it started? Had she been lying for months? Years? Was I the fool who had ignored all the signs? I scrolled through my phone, staring at the photo. The proof. The undeniable truth. Every time I looked at it, I felt a fresh wave of anger, of cold, calculated rage. I wasn't going to confront her right away. That would be too easy. I needed to see everything. I needed to know everything. And once I did, I would make her regret every single lie. For the next week, I became a shadow in my own life. Laura didn't notice. She was too busy with him. She left early, came home late, smiled at her phone more than she smiled at me. I started tracking her movements. Nothing high-tech, just simple observations. She had patterns. She met him in different locations, careful not to repeat the same spot too often. A hotel downtown, a quiet restaurant, a bookstore where they lingered too close in the aisles. I followed her from a distance, never close enough to be noticed. And each time, I took photos. Proof. Undeniable, soul-crushing proof. Then, I checked our bank accounts. She had been spending money on him. Expensive dinners, hotel stays, using our shared funds to finance her affair. It was disgusting. I wasn't just being betrayed. I was paying for it. That was when my anger solidified into something else, a plan. She thought she was smart, careful, but she had made a mistake. She had underestimated me. The night before everything fell apart, I sat across from her at dinner. She was laughing, sipping wine, playing the role of the perfect wife. The woman who had vowed to love me, to be faithful, to stand beside me. And the whole time, she had another man's hands on her. I forced a smile, pretended to listen. Because by tomorrow, her entire world would be in ruins. And the best part? She wouldn't even see it coming. The next morning, I left the house before Laura woke up. I needed time to prepare. I drove to a local print shop, my heart hammering in my chest as I placed my order. 1,000 small cards. Each one with the same simple question printed in bold, black ink. How could you? The employee glanced at the design, then at me, but didn't ask any questions. Good. While I waited for the prints, I went back through the evidence. The photographs. The bank statements. The text messages I had managed to recover from her laptop. Every detail of her deception laid bare. I selected the 10 most damning images. The hotel entrance. The restaurant. The way she looked at him. The way she kissed him. Then, I had those printed too. Large. Framed. The final piece of my plan was simple. I logged into our joint bank account and transferred every last dollar into my private account. By the time she found out, it would be too late. And when she came home that evening, Expecting the comfort of the life she had so carefully crafted, she would find the ruins of it instead. I arrived home early, carrying boxes of printed cards and framed photographs into the house. Every step felt like placing a landmine. I started with the first floor. One by one, I spread the cards everywhere. On the floor, on the furniture, on the kitchen counter. Each one identical. Each one a question she would have to face over and over again. Then, I went upstairs. In the bedroom, I hung the framed photographs. One above the bed. One on the closet door. One on the bathroom mirror. 10 images of her betrayal, staring back at her from every direction. By the time I finished, the house was a shrine of her infidelity. A museum of deceit. And all that was left to do was wait. She walked in at 7:30 p.m., humming softly as she set down her bag. Then, she froze. The cards were impossible to ignore. They covered every surface, 1,000 echoes of the same demand. How could you? Her breath hitched. Jack. She stepped forward, picking up one of the cards, flipping it over like it might hold an explanation. But there was nothing on the back. Just the question, repeated 1,000 times. She turned toward the stairs. That's when she saw the photographs. Her face went white. A choked noise escaped her lips as she took slow, hesitant steps toward the bedroom. I followed, silent. She reached the doorway and stopped. Her hands flew to her mouth as she took in the images. The truth. The undeniable, inescapable truth. No, she whispered. Her voice broke. Jack. I can explain. I stepped closer, my voice calm. Explain what? She turned to me, eyes filled with terror. I made a mistake. I tilted my head, letting the silence stretch between us. Then, I simply said, so did I. Her eyes flickered with confusion. Then realization. She grabbed her phone, panic setting in, fingers shaking as she tried to open our banking app. I watched as her expression crumbled. Zero balance. Every single dollar gone. She let out a strangled sob, falling to her knees. Jack, please. I turned away, stepping over the scattered cards, walking toward the door. She called my name again, but I didn't stop. Because in that moment, she became nothing to me. Just another question without an answer. And I walked out.